Welcome back, everyone. My name is Paul Marlette. This is the great start. I'm reading the chat and laughing already. Uh, this is the second in a two-part series on a deep dive into the spatial awareness and tactics cusps of the new physical education and wellness curriculum for Alberta. So my name is Paul Marlette. If you want more information, check out the bio in the ARPD site. It's all there. All right. So last time we looked at kind of really quick ways, easy ways to start to dive in to those cusps from the new curriculum. And just as a reminder, when I'm referring to like section 2, A, B, and C, those are some frameworks that I've overlaid on top of the current curriculum just to make it easier to do these sessions. So that resource, all of that information is available as well. So this day is, one moment, there we go. This session is all about these four things. The first one is how can we now integrate some of our dance and gymnastics activities to benefit and to move the spatial awareness forward of our students. The other thing here is that can we actually add some manipulatives into this to start doing more than one thing at a time? In previous videos, one of my biggest philosophies is start with a simple game and then add complexity, because the coolest thing happens when kids start to realize that what they've done will actually make the rest of the game better. So today I'm going to revisit some of the activities that we were talking about on the last session. And I'm going to show you how you can add some simple manipulative skills from grade 1 all the way to grade 6. I also want to talk quickly about some tactical transfer. The reason being is that just like in reading, just like in math, if we learn a skill in math, something like the balance of equality. So that balance of equality is such a key thing in math. Why? Because we never, ever get to break that. So little skills simply as like turn, rotate your hips and throw, those basic things. Or if you're running in a space, look for open space and go there. That is going to help our students further down the road in every sport they play for the rest of their life. And the last one is I do want to take a look again. I'm going to revisit some of the stuff on assessment and tracking from our last session, the practical pedagogy session, because there's some things in there I think that really helps teachers move forward in efficiency. As always, I would like to just take a moment to acknowledge the land. We are in Alberta across Treaty 7 and 8. So I would like to acknowledge that we are on the traditional territories in Alberta of the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit whose voices and footsteps have marked these lands for centuries. Today, I ended up outside in the windstorm, playing a new game of Capture the Plague with tennis balls. It was fantastic. We got cold, and it was so good to be back outside with my students. So again, this is the exact write-up from the ARPD site. So I just always like to have this in case someone is looking at the slide deck after. Right, we're going to jump right in today. The end of last session, we started to look at what some of those specific cusps were. And in the elementary, not the elementary, in the Div 1, K1, 2, and 3, you're going to see a lot of things in there about moving to space, right? About different ways of moving, the qualities of movement and how they affect physical activity. So I'm going to share the first bits. The first bits that I'm going to share are all about creative dance. Now, dance is one of those things that a lot of phys ed teachers either love it or hate it because they don't have the confidence in it. The one thing I do want to empower everyone to realize is that if you can walk, you're already dancing. Dance is literally just a sequence of movements that we string together. So in this, when we're looking at creativity and free exploration, I am going to include a resource when they send this out. It is literally called They'll Never Know They're Dancing. It's a creative PDF. It's got, I think, 8 different activities in there. I'm going to talk about 3 of them. It's another workshop I deliver across the province. So you'll have access to that as well. And the other key is that throughout this whole workshop, don't try and write everything down. It's too much. Right? These are going to be recorded. You have access to me. My email will be at the end. So if you forget, send me an email. It's much easier than watching an hour. The other thing is that I am recording these in chunks. So I will have a video that's just on dance keys. I'll have one just on gymnastics. So I break them down into about 20-minute chunks that you can watch offline as well. The last time we met, we talked about can they see space? Can they move to space? Can they lead and follow? The fourth key in terms of spatial awareness for me is, are they being creative? And this is where your job as a phys ed teacher just gets so much easier. So I don't know if anyone here grew up dancing in the entire world of dance, because anyone who's been in a dance class knows across the floors. So across the floors are this beautiful unwritten way to help kids just take on some leadership, to put a little bit of risk involved and to put them on the spot a little bit. As always, you know your students better than me. So if there are certain students who you know aren't going to do it, well, that's up to you to modify. Okay, but across the floor is literally, if this is my gym here, okay, I've got my gym. We're going to line up on one corner and we're going to dance across. Then we make an X. So then we walk to the next one. We dance across, we walk to the short corner, dance across the long, walk to the short corner, right? So you're just making an X. And whenever you're going the long way, that's when a student is going to pick a way to move. And this can take a long time. Or you can say, I'm going to take 5 liters today. And you can be really specific. You can say, okay, I want you to use 2 different levels. I want you to use 2 forms of locomotion. I want you to pick 3 animals. Whatever it is, this is such a great way to see how kids move in their body. So it's not just enough to have kids run around space and make sure they don't run into each other, because we're trying to build that body awareness. So when we're doing across the floors, when I taught grade 1 and 2, we would honestly do this for about 20 minutes, and every kid had a chance to go on their own and they would pick an animal. Grade 2s at that time, this was about 4 or 5 years ago, they loved animals. So how do you move like a cheetah? So they would get on all 4s. But the coolest thing is that once you have that, you have some basic things where it's not much of a metaphor, it just is. You say, well, what is that movement of the cheetah? So today I'm actually set up differently so I can move around. Okay, so I'm going to try and do this. We'll see if it works. So most kids, when they do cheetah, they're going to get down on all 4s and they're going to crawl. However, the action of a cheetah is actually more like jumping. So after we go through it once or twice, we got kids running around, or snakes, they're slithering down on the ground. We can take it to a different place of creativity where now, well, what is a cheetah? A cheetah is going to be jumping. Okay, cheetahs have this incredible speed. So maybe instead of you on all 4s, the cheetah goes, right? So they develop this, like, what are the qualities of that animal? And what are the qualities that we could emulate in a different way? Snakes are slithery, but they also move sideways sometimes. So instead of on the ground, how does that actually move? Can you move your hips and your hands in a different motion? Right? And the more we do this kind of stuff, what happens is that kids start to get outside of the box of, okay, I'm going to be a rabbit, I'm just going to hop. And we get into these other qualities because our bodies have this amazing ability to mimic, right? Can you do ears with something other than your hands? Right? We can bring in elements of flexibility. Can you actually make ears out of something different? Can you do it with your legs? Crab walking. We have the classic shuttle to the side. So animals, honestly, are like a #1 go-to. There's also these things called animal decks. Brilliant, because you draw 5 cards, give them to a kid. How does this animal move? I don't want to make it look like the animal. So that's a great way. The cross the floor, infinite amount of symmetrical, asymmetrical levels and different types of locomotion. For me, they're kind of like an exit slip where I can quickly give a task and stand back or participate, but watch, and you see, okay, that kid still can't skip. Easy, right? Another couple of quick things to do when you're assessing in terms of warm-up, just to see where your kids are at, is to play ridiculous tag games. Right? Like, have kids make up tag games. They make up the craziest stuff that makes no sense. One little word of caution there is I really try to avoid anything where students are being eliminated, right? And there's lots of different ways to do that. We can talk about that in the Q&A if you'd like. Music. Music is one of the fundamentals of life. If there's any way to bring music into your gym, even for across the floors, play something. Doesn't have to be related to what you're doing, but play a variety of music. You'll start to see kids do very different things. One of my favorite things to do is to take a bunch of playlists, mash them together, and play each one for like 30 seconds for across the floors. And the instruction can be move however the music wants you to move. Right? And I would never force a kid to do it, but usually kids will get there with a little encouraging. Yeah, and at the end here it says do everything all at once. Could you create a tag game where now kids are having to dance in between, or you have to save someone by doing a dance move that has 3 levels, and they have to mirror that, and then they go free, right? So there are no wrong moves in any of this. It's just how you come about it. So the first main thing, other than cross the floors, I want to talk about is, again, you'll notice in here that it has very similar pieces, because what I'm going to show you, you can embed this into all kinds of different activities. So this first one is called 3x3. What I do with older kids is something called 5x5. I'm just going to take a step back here, because what I find is that sometimes teachers don't often get the chance to experience it. So while I'm talking through it, stand up. Heck, I've been teaching all day. Ran in here, set up my recording studio, and sometimes it just feels good to move. So 3x3 is an interesting way to see kids' creativity and their understanding of levels. Kindergarten 1, 2, 3, fantastic. When we get to the 4, 5, 6, I'll show you how to add some complexities. And again, this is in a resource that's linked right in the slideshow. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to give them maybe 2-3 minutes to come up with 3 different poses that they think are unique and interesting to them. Now, what I usually do is I start talking about levels. Most kids understand them, but when we make it really pointed, it shifts their relationship to it. So I want a high, a medium, and a low. Well, what indicates a high? For me, a high is anything where I'm standing and vertical. So if I can get my hands up, that's going to be the best kind of high pose. So, or first off, what your kids are going to do is they'll go like this. Well, that's not very interesting. Now we can introduce symmetry, asymmetry. Okay, points of balance is all part of dance. So 1 point of balance on the floor, and you have to have asymmetry. Okay, or with little kids, both sides should look different. Maybe my next pose is going to be something in the middle. That's this zone from knees to shoulders. So I want my head between my knees and shoulders. My first one was 1 leg up. My middle pose is down here. I'll do like a surfing thing for boys related to sports. It's going to make a huge difference. So down here, and my low pose, don't know if you can see me, but my low pose is anything where my head is about below my waist. So down here, I'm just going to make a little bowl. And now encourage them to play around with shapes. Can you make it more interesting? And then what we're going to do with that is we're going to take them through a count. So in essence, I'm going to count to 10 and you're going to take a pose. And what happens is that after they take that pose, I'm going to start counting right away. And I want to see them transition between those 3. With younger kids, sometimes it's easier to let them pick. Sometimes I'll say I want your low, medium, and high to give them that order depending on the group. But what happens is that those kids now own that movement. Right? So for example, I'm going to count myself through it. So I'll go faster for time. So I'm way down here. I'm going to go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm in my surfing pose. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm in my vertical pose. 5, 4, 3, 2. I'm back to my bowling ball or whatever you want to call it. I would actually start with 20 seconds, go down to 10, go down to 5, go down to 3, and then go down to 1. So now these students, number one, have to hold it in memory as they're going, and the speed gets faster. And I don't tell them that, because ultimately what we want them to do is start to come up with their own transitions. Phase 2, older kids. Now, after they have their poses, we're going to say, okay, I want you to have a unique transition between the 2 that has to have a rotation or some kind of quick locomotion. So for example, if I'm up here, well, yeah, I can just come down, pop into my middle pose, but it's not interesting, and it's not even really that fun. So instead, if I'm here, maybe I'm going to do a twist and slide into it. If I'm going down to my bowling ball, maybe I'm going to take a step forward and then come into that pose. So again, as a warm up or even as an entire day, these kind of activities give us this idea of creative and fluid motion and allow kids to start to take some ownership of it. Next phase to this is to actually have kids work together, teach each other their poses, or even come up with new poses. For me, dance should always be performed. So it's a great way to now have half your class stand up, show me your 3x3, let them watch the other kids, and then you talk about it. Did you see anything interesting? Did you see anything that caught your eye? Did you see anything that surprised you? Because when we have that, now we're actually normalizing creative movement. If we ever take a look at, if you ever really watch basketball, volleyball at a really high level, those guys and women who play those sports are so creative. They're coming up with new moves all the time. But unfortunately, in our kind of Western society, the notion of putting your hands in the air for some boys is really awkward because they think it's just dance. But this way, you get at that dance without having to like force it. Again, a great tag game. You get a lot of people play freeze tag. Okay, why not play level tag? If you get tagged, you got to go between high, medium, low. And the only time you get free is if someone mirrors you. Okay? Remember that word mirroring. We'll come back to that. Back to front. This is another one that's in the resource. And let me just pop into this. Come on. There we go. So this is not it. It's right there, creative dance. So this is the resource I was talking about. The thing I love about this is that this comes from a book called Perpetual Motion, but we've modified it because after every single thing you do, here's back to front, it will give you questions, discussion questions. So it helps the students realize, well, why did I do certain things? Okay, so I just want to make you aware that that's in there. So back to front. Back to front is, that's not back to front. Come on, buddy. Back to front. Back to front. Once we have this idea of levels, we have this idea of maybe orientation, some rotations in there, transitions. This is where you can take anywhere from like 4 to 8 kids and you line them all up like this. We'll do it like sign language. Where's my camera? You line them up like this. Okay. And all that happens is that the person in the very back is going to jog to the front and go to the front of the line. So when you start this, we're starting at the one side of the gym, almost like a relay. The difference is it's the last person who's going to run to the front or jog. Okay. Now, when you do this, the very first time you do it, we're going to stand in what we call neutral position. All my dancers in the house are like, modern dance, hopefully. So neutral position is hands at your side, blank face, body straight, good posture, and you jog up and you step in front and you just stand there. So you're in neutral position. The next thing we're going to do though is after we go across the floor at least once, we're going to have students turn around and face the other direction and wait. This time, the person in the back, this person right here, is going to run to the front and they're going to take one of their poses or a new pose, a high, medium, or low pose. And the only criteria on this is that you cannot take the same level as the person behind you. So if the first person runs to the front and they take this crazy high pose, the next person has to take a medium or a low pose. That's it. And you just line up all the way down the gym. This does take some time. Okay, I'm not saying that this is going to be perfect the first time you do it, but the more you do it and the more the kids get used to it, even as a warm-up, you can embed all kinds of things into it as well. I've even done this with different kind of calisthenics with my junior highs. So they have to run to the front and they have to do push-ups, sit-ups, squats, the stuff we do in our fitness unit until it's their turn to move again. And the rule is they can't do any of the same calisthenics as anyone on their team. Right? Remember that flexibility, that adaptability, that willingness to kind of stretch things is what's really going to make a difference. So now we have levels. The next thing I would do after we do that a couple of times, because you can talk about it, is now have them add a direction. So if the person in the front line takes a high pose facing front, the next person has to face left, right, back, and they have to take a different level. right? So that's the really basic version of that. But in kindergarten, 1, 2, 3, kindergarten, yeah, I think I've done it with like 4 or 5 with 2 or 3 kids in a group. It's when I used to do camps for the Suzuki piano camp. Anyway, so back to front, another great way to add things in. It's just another way to quickly visually see, do your kids understand what direction and height is, right? And from time to time, you'll see kids who have no idea what a medium level pose is. So if it's in your cusp for that grade, this gives you that quick visual. Yeah, this is, I don't have, would I have one more? No, I think this is the last dance one, right? With an hour, I'm going to try and push a bunch of stuff in, and then we'll kind of talk about it after. Mirrors, I think everyone knows what mirrors are. So mirrors are like right now we could be doing it, right? If you're my partner in mirrors, the key here is that we are going to be using slow motions. Okay? And if you're in an office with headphones, you should just follow me because it would be hilarious. And everyone else in your office will think you've kind of lost it a bit. So like, for example, if I move this hand up, you would move the same hand up like we're in a mirror, right? We can bend over. Now, hopefully you're starting to think, well, what else can we do with this? Because this is boring. So we can actually start to add our levels where we change heights. We can actually encourage kids to see if they can do something that will involve a turn, right? So how do you mirror a turn? Next thing is that can we add some locomotion? If I step backwards, which way does my partner go? If I step to the side, well, obviously we have to move with them in an equal and opposite. So you're also getting this notion of paying attention to someone else while you're moving. Where does this lead? This leads to offense and defense as we get up to the higher levels. Okay? The tactics in, I think, starting in grade 4, talk about, understand the difference between offense and defense. Well, ultimately, defense is a mirroring, and an offense is a leading position. So when we put in truck and trailer, we do some mirroring. And if we can mirror actually having kids doing like jogging on the spot, and we have them shuffling, I'm going to go right out of the screen. That's kind of fun. Anyway, so we can do that. Can we have kids touch the ground while they're jogging? Stop, touch the ground, come back forward. We can add in jumping jacks. Can you do some like mirrored calisthenics? And again, a lot of people say, well, why do we need to do that? And you don't, but this is actually a skill in dance and in sport. So the stand, the walk, the shuffle, can you do it where what you're going to do is have kids doing some mirroring, give them a single, maybe some music. Let's see something really cool, put on some African drumming or some like AC/DC that's got the proper lyrics, I know, but something that's really energetic and have kids mirror, stop the music, either have them find another partner or move them down a line, right? We could set them up in parallel lines going down the gym. And then to switch partners, all you do is have the person at the very end run around to the front. And now you've got a new partner. Change the music to classical, change the music to spoken word, change the music to waves. You'll see a totally different side of kids in their movement. That's the qualities of movement. And again, one of the things I've been trying to bring out with dance over the last 20, 25 years is that qualities of movement in sport are just as intricate as the qualities in movement in dance. So there are times when you play ultimate frisbee, or when I play ultimate frisbee, when I am literally trying to slow everything down because the energy's gotten too frantic. So when you start to expose kids, we put it in their body. Okay. My favorite thing ever to do with mirroring is when we play with this third point called proximity. So proximity is literally how far we are and how close we are. So you can have kids mirror each other where they're touching their hand. Now they could even give high fives if you're allowing them to touch when they're mirroring. Can you have them? Well, could we? That would be weird. Think about that. Because that's same side, same side. It's more like patty cake. Sorry, I never thought about that before. The other thing we can do is we can stretch them out 10, 20 feet away and have them mirror from there. One of the games I like to play, either with music or a signal, is I'll have kids in partners. From our practical pedagogy, I prefer to give kids partners. I really don't want that many kids finding partners that often in elementary because kids get left out and that sucks. Just as a little throwback to another session. So I'll have them in partners and I'll have them walk around. So maybe I'll put on some, or I'll turn the music off and I'll say, I want you to walk around in neutral until you hear the music play. So they're walking around, they're walking around. As soon as the music starts to play, they stop and they rotate slowly, scanning, 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 scanning until they find their partner wherever they're at. Soon as they see their partner, they start to lead. Now, you might say, who chooses who decides who to lead? You can either dictate that, or you can let the partners figure that out. You can even have it so they switch lead while they're doing it. Now, you want to see little kids like navigate, lead and follow, or how to compromise in a relationship. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge in the relationship section. There's a lot of talk about how do we set boundaries? How do we do this? So after an exercise, if you have them switch leads, can we say, did anyone not get a chance to lead? Yeah, I didn't. So how can we make sure that everyone has fair treatment there? Right. So early on, even in the assessment videos, I was trying to get across this notion that if you understand the essence of the cusps, in 2 or 3 activities, you can check off and you can assess how kids are progressing with them. Right. So anyway, so we have kids across the gym. They may not be able to see each other. So they may have to like lean out in order to do it. Then we turn the music off and they walk. Again, what are we doing when we're walking? We're practicing spatial awareness. We're embedding it into as many things as we possibly can. Could you add a jog? Absolutely. You trust your kids. You've seen them look for space, move to space. Could we talk about tactics? So while you're walking around, interestingly enough, is there a beneficial place to be with your partner if you can't walk next to them? Well, so maybe give them some time. Where do you want to be? Where do I want to be? Do we want to follow each other? Is it better for us to spread out and find a sight line? Right? So that tactical piece, even in a simple game like mirroring, we can start simple. Everyone's done it, right? Tai Chi, it always looks like Tai Chi. It's beautiful. Can you have them mirror each other's facial expression? This video, I'm going to look like a fool, but this is the kind of stuff that I would do with kids as well. Can you do just mirroring eyebrows? My daughter can do that one eyebrow thing. I can't. So start simple, increase the complexity as we go forward. Right now, again, the neat thing about these is that if anyone here has any kind of show and share assemblies, stuff like that, with these 3 things that I've given you, 3 by 3, back to front, and mirroring, you can actually, once kids understand it, you could have a piece of music and it could have a break 2 times. And you could have a creative dance choreographed where no kid has to remember a single step. They just have to remember, back to front. I have three things that I have to have: a high, medium, low. And when I'm mirroring, there's my partner. And with the right music and the right group of kids, it looks amazing. So I used to teach high school dance as well. And I would choreograph dances just using like 4 or 5 different creative dance styles for our presentations. And it's amazing because you can't tell who's leading. You can't tell if anyone's messed up as well. Right. All right. So that was the longest section because I really do feel that dance is like one of those hidden like treasures in the phys ed curriculum. And it's something that we should be doing more of as much as we can, because in our society, our really good dancers generally don't like to show off because kids make fun of them. And our kids who have never danced are kind of embarrassed about it and don't want to be made fun of. So by normalizing creative movement, right, spatially creative, the body has a vocabulary that we can borrow from other people, borrow from other cultures, and embed within our own and build that vocabulary just like we would like our spoken vocabulary. And the bigger the vocabulary, ironically, the more coordinated an individual is. Okay. Next thing I want to look at is some gymnastics. I had the absolute pleasure and privilege of working with this incredible phys ed teacher right from her first year out of university. She was just gung-ho to really make a difference. Her name is Alicia Olane, and shoot, there's no E on the end of that. Oh, I need to fix that. Alicia, if you're seeing this, I apologize. That's all on me. Anyway, Alicia has done an amazing amount of things within the phys ed community. She's in Calgary here. She has been our HPEC president and has created some incredible workshops and kind of supports. So this site here is her Google site. It's her share site. It's much nicer than mine. After seeing it, I know I have to up my game a little bit. Anyway, gymnastics is another one of these keys that takes things to a different level. So when we're doing things like truck and trailer, we're watching kids, we're seeing, are they actually moving to that open space? And why is that important? Because in any sport, you're never going to get the ball if you're behind the rest of the group. You gotta spread the peanut butter. Anyone from last time, spread the peanut butter. Right? But in gymnastics, what happens is, I'm just going to go to her site here. In gymnastics, what happens? Athletics unit, minute to win it, fit, where is it here? One sec here. Gymnastics movements, right here. So the scope, and she has these beautiful scope and sequences that she put in. She has this thing about how to build a routine and how to present it. Some of this is also, it's from our older activity, benefits health, cooperation and do it daily. But the information there is still very usable. So the stuntmastics routine, again, what a great way to let kids branch out on their own and play around with it. So I don't like using the term gymnastics in phys ed anymore because we are so limited in what we can actually do in gymnastics. The last time I checked, even anytime a kid was bearing the weight of another kid was actually not okay in elementary. And that may have changed. I realized just now I haven't checked into that. But so piggybacks, wheelbarrow racing, all of that stuff we couldn't do. So what happens is that now we have to look at what are the key skills. This is where we get to look at balance points, shapes, levels, creating routines and criteria. The nice thing is that this all tailors in to the stuff we're already doing. If I cut off my head, I apologize. There we go. So for example, can you make a low shape with 3 points of contact to the floor? Okay, so what are kids going to do? They're going to bend down, put 2 hands down, and now they got their foot. But the thing is that I just put 10 fingers down. So we can actually start to get kids' body awareness into a much more refined area. So if I'm wearing shoes or socks, we'll count that 1. But if I only have 3 points of contact, well, I could put my 2 feet down and get my head down. I can't. I probably won't get up. Right? The other thing is that can we do a high pose with 2 points of contact and another individual? So this is where we get into like conjoined balances and poses. With stuntmastics, we always want mats of some kind, or I do. Right? If you have kids laying on their backs or doing anything like that, it's really important to make sure they're moving through that. Routines are really fun because you can actually have kids set the criteria. And what starts to come out of it is, well, let's say we want to have an animal in there. Can we decide what animal you are just by watching? Are they going to have 3 different levels? That's a requirement. Are we going to add some kind of a role? And the higher levels, when we look at the movement patterns, we have things like grapevines, right? Step behind step in front, step behind step in front. We have things like shuffles. We have jumps, different kinds of jumps. And the stuntmastics unit allows us to then impose some of our own criteria. So I want you to have at least 2 shared balances that have no more than 3 points of contact. Or can we have a shared balance, a low balance, that actually has 15 points of contact? And so it's all, for me, embedding the gymnastics type activities are mostly about like integrating balance, right? Because we haven't really worked on that yet. It does integrate everything else we're working on, but the routine is what kind of sets it up for me, because now I have a really quick thing that I can videotape. Kids can work on it for a day or two. I have some kids who bring costumes when they do it. So it becomes one of those kind of celebratory things as well. And again, like Alicia's stunt gymnastics units, she I think she was a first year hire when I was in junior high, and right then she had this stunt gymnastics unit built up right there. There's also some really good resources out there if you don't do that currently. Okay, and manipulation. So this is the first time I've ever talked about manipulatives and how to get kids to work with equipment. And just as a proviso, what is that? A proviso? Sure. Quid pro quo. This is not a technical discussion on how to teach manipulatives. This is ways that you can integrate some really basic manipulative use to do some pre-assessment, just to increase complexity in games. So the next series I'm doing, I think it's series 5. Those 2 videos, I'm going to do a deep dive into what's an immature, mature, and a mature stage of all of those skills of catch, throw, bat, field, kick, and receive. Okay, so that's coming up if you're interested in that. So the 3 main ways that we can manipulate simple objects are pick up, put down. It's one that is often missed. Because if you think about any game that we play with a ball, or pretty much any manipulative, like ultimate frisbee, rugby, baseball, you actually have to bend down and pick the object up most of the time. That's how we do, even in badminton, right? It's a skill. Can you actually, in badminton, one of my favorite things to teach kids is, can they pick it up with the racket? The other one is handoff. So it's another underused little piece of manipulative skill that is pretty easy to teach, but there are a couple of keys to it. And once we introduce it, it actually can make all the other games that we're playing just that much more exciting. If kids are getting really good at it, let's give them a challenge, right? Allow them to take a little more risk. And the last one is pass and catch. So we're not going to be batting rubber chickens very often, right? We're not going to be batting bean bags, but we do want kids tossing and catching those as well. So let's take a look at a few things. This is Alicia Lane. So she's got some really neat stuff on there. I put this up for the link just so you have it. This is in the PE Foundations, and she has this awesome resource. I'll just go to it. Building a foundation. There's lots of resources on here. There's one at the bottom here that I want you to see. Yeah, so the movement skill criteria cards. Again, she's just done such a good job with this. I can't improve upon it. I think her work with the provincial councils really kind of set her up to build these really neat resources. So practical guidelines for Shape America, I can statements, those are from the old ones. All right, so, come back. Here we go. Manipulatives. So when we add this into an existing framework, it doesn't mean we get to stop talking about spatial awareness and how to move to open and closed areas. So hopefully, if you were on the call, you remember Truck and Trailer. Really quickly, Truck and Trailer is this awesome game. Oh my gosh, I play it from like grade 1 all the way to grade 12. Gives you such a good indication and a crazy workout. You have 2 people, like so. First person is the truck, second person is the trailer. So they jog around or they walk around depending on where you are, and they're trying to stay fairly close. In the older grades, the goal is to actually lose the truck, or the trailer, I should say. So they're sprinting around, changing directions, all of those great things for like field sports. And when the teacher says switch, what happens is that they turn around. So now the trailer becomes the truck. Switch, trailer becomes the truck. One of the things you can do here to add a little more interest to this is you can add a beanbag. Tennis balls aren't great because they roll away. Chickens or noodles, or even something to toss. So this time, if I'm the truck, I've got the tool. Okay, I've got the noodle. As soon as someone says switch, I turn around, I hand it off. Okay. If we're playing with older kids and we want them to lose each other, okay, as soon as you say switch, they have to find each other, toss the object to the other person, and you can have some different criteria. If they catch the ball, great, game is on. If they drop it, what do they have to do? I don't need to give that to you. This is where you can start to have that improvisational thing. Pull the students in. Should there be a 2 jumping jacks and then go? Or should they have to, what's another fun one to do? They could like have to run around each, like the person who threw it has to run around the other person 3 times and then they're off. Whatever it is, we're going to add some complexity to it. So right there, really simple thing. With little kids, this is hilarious because they'll switch and forget to pass the ball. Right? Great. Now we got something to work on. We have something we're physically educating them. I'm in the lead. I'm holding something. And when I hear switch, I have to get rid of something. Right? So truck and trailer, easy one. This is up and down, or also also known affectionately as uppy downy. There's lots of variations of this. There's even a board game version of it that has to do with X's and O's. The way I play it is I just use those little disc cones. And with the disc cones, I have one per student. Student takes the disc cone, they either choose up or down. So it's either right side up or wrong, upside up, right side up or wrong side up. Yeah, that makes sense. And they spread them out over the gym, just like that. Then I'm going to put the group into 2 teams, and they're either right-siders or upside-downers. So their goal is to move through the space. Remember, walk, jog, run. We've added something new to this. Okay. And their goal is to, if they see a cone that's the opposite of what theirs is, they're going to flip it over. If this is my cone, right there. What's the safety concern? I'm running in, I'm bending down. Okay. This is the safety issue. Right? We talked about some of the major injuries that happen in phys ed. Number one is like water and collisions. In this case, whenever we have students bending down, a lot of them come in like this at first. Okay? So this is another big teaching point, that if I'm coming into a cone, there aren't very many sports where you want to go into something like an L unless you're diving. Right? We don't lead with our head. So when we're doing this, like if you go in to pick up a baseball, you're actually coming in low and you're picking it up to throw it. Same thing with an ultimate frisbee disc. I'm coming in low, I'm getting a center of gravity, and I'm actually lowering. I'm not bending from my waist. So this game is actually a really tough workout. So as I come in, I pick it up, I flip it, I go off. Now, again, remember what we were looking at before. We were looking at this notion of where is open space. We're starting to think about tactics. We're starting to look at how do we integrate movement patterns. This is an exhausting game. So I would usually set a time limit. Start with 30 seconds because it's all anaerobic. They never get a stop. Then you can count. Okay, they have 15, you have 20. Great, let's try it again. The neat thing is that you can also add extensions to this. Remember, start basic. I use this for my volleyball teams. I used to. So we used to put out the cones and we'd do it for 4 or 5 minutes. You can't get better training because now we can actually have them do a squat to flip it. We can integrate some fitness to it, but it's not just let's do squats. The extension to this is now, instead of just flipping a cone, if a cone is the opposite of mine, I can pick it up, take it 10 steps and put it down. Now we're going to talk about strategy. So maybe the second or third day, now we're going to look at tactics. Because if we can now choose where we're going to put cones, could we actually set up an offensive side and a defense? If someone comes and flips a cone, I've got someone right near it who's going to flip it back. Can we set up zones? As a team, maybe we decide that we're going to just follow someone from the other team. So everyone picks someone like an offense, defense, man to man. Will that work? The other rule is that once you turn a cone, you can't go back to that cone until you've flipped 5 others. So you can add these complications of games. Little kids, like grade 1, 2, 3, just flip the cones. That's it. You don't need anything more than that, right? Because it's fun. It's challenging. If you have a countdown, you'll see them just bopping around, right? So what I wanted to do with this session is to show you that in just doing the basic truck and trailer, we're getting a sense for how the kids are. And then a game like this, we're still applying all those things. Walking, jogging, running. I would not have kids running doing this. right? Because they're going to put their head down and look down at the cone. We want to start building that peripheral vision, especially grade 3, 4, 5, and 6. Right? You have to show that. You have to model that. Show them why you don't come down and smash each other's heads, because someone's going to get hurt. Now we're going back to the safety strands, right? We have to allow kids the opportunity to embrace the fact that they're responsible for their safety as well. Uppy downy. That's the exact same one, just with a different name. Look at that. That's how good I like it. Oh yeah, hot potato. I'm going to leave this in here. What I've learned is that I can't show any YouTube videos on the call because it blocks them when I go to upload them. Okay, so I apologize for that. So as we get into this, hot potato handoff, really simple thing. You put kids in lines and they literally learn how to hand off. If you've never done handoffs before, it's literally one hand up, one hand down, and they just run back and forth like a relay. The neat thing is that just like we had the pass off in, what was the game? Truck and trailer. We also talked about the advanced truck and trailer where we have a switch and a change where we have 4 kids. Now you can actually have them do handoffs down the line before they can keep going, right? So again, these manipulative skills we can start to build within. The last little thing I want to talk about here before I quickly talk about some tactics and then some assessment is the power of relays. So relays are like a staple in every gym. And there are a few different ways when we can continue to build the cusps that we're trying to assess and to build within our students. So you can do everything you need to assess in a relay. It doesn't always have to be in lines going like linear forward and back. And the more creative you are and your kids are with this, you can add more movement, manipulation, and locomotion all together. So we're starting to combine those skills. So this one here is, again, there's a clip here, and it's a really interesting way to kind of integrate that stuff we did with the hoops. So this one, these are the 3 main ways to do relays. So you have every group start around a circle and they run out and back, or you have everyone start around the gym and run into a circle to do something or to collect something, or you have the standard one where they go out to a line and back. The one where students run out, this is actually one of my favorites because you can place equipment in the lines. So as a student runs out from the center, they've got 2 or 3 people here. And again, nice short lines. We don't want more than 4 kids max, unless they're doing something in the line. They can run out, toss a beanbag 3 times and catch it, run out, do a hula hoop once or twice. And now what we can do is we can have them run around an outer circle before they tag off to their partner. Okay, this one here, same kind of thing. They run in, do an activity, maybe high five someone, maybe it's do 3 jumping jacks, integrate some fitness, whatever it is, and then they run back. And what you're watching for now is like locomotive patterns. Can they do a grapevine in and out? You can see that really quick. You're standing there with your assessment board while they're doing, you got, yeah, kids got it, kids got it, kids got it. That kid still doesn't have it. I need to work with that kid on step, hop, step, hop, step, hop. So these little things, even if they're warm-ups, stop and watch because that's going to give you a wealth of information. Reps versus speed. So a lot of times you're going to have 1 or 2 teams that have those kids who just aren't quick. They're slow. Maybe they just don't have the fitness, or maybe they've got challenges. So one of the ways to get around that is point number 2, which is give kids 2 minutes to see how many times they can get their team through. We still want to have some way to track progress, but it doesn't have to be that highly competitive, yay, we finished first. Right? Finishing first in a relay is more who's on your team, not the skill that's involved. The other thing you can do is if you know you have a really strong team, so just quietly go up to them and say, hey guys, I got a challenge for you. I know there's 3 of you. The first person has to run twice. So you can actually start to balance that if you still want to do it first in wins. I try not to use relays as super competitive unless I'm running a track team or like an athletic team. And build to multiple steps. This is a really fun thing. So the first thing they do is they just jog from the start to the end and back, high five their partner. Next time, they're going to skip to the end, do 2 jumping jacks, then come back, high five their partner. So they go all the way through their team. Successive things get more and more complicated. Give them a beanbag. Can they put a beanbag on their head? Can they walk out, still do, I don't know, 2 squats, maybe a push-up? Maybe they crawl back like an iguana, whatever you want, and just keep on building. What is their memory? How much can they actually add in while they're going? And again, multiple steps. This one is talking about tossing a ball. So if the first person runs out, picks up a ball off a cone, has to catch it once, then they run back to a certain line, throw it to a partner. That partner catches the ball and does the same thing. So now we're increasing this notion of catch and throw, all the skills we're going to learn in the next series. And we're also getting the fitness piece, and we get to watch how they're moving through space. Okay. So the cusps, I've got, yeah, perfect. I've got about 10 to 7 minutes here. So the cusp summary sheet, this is all in what I'm calling the 2A and the 2B series, because these sheets, this is a PDF that I have linked into the replays when they come out. So for example, this is the skill development sheet. So for me, this is 2A. This is all of the parts that deal with body awareness and tactics. So if we go down to grade 3 here, we get tactics for individuals. And again, it's the S and Ps. These are the, where is it there? Yeah, the S and Ps, which are the procedures. So practice defense and offense tactics in a variety of physical activities. So we've already started doing that with some of the mirroring things, and that's at a younger grade. How else do we practice offense and defense? Other ones up here, apply tactics to physical activity, scan and assess surroundings to support spatial awareness, refine movement skills in relation to people and objects in physical activity. Another great thing to do is just to put a bunch of equipment out, mats. There's a game called Ooch Neech from India, and kids have to be on the equipment or off the equipment. So if the person who's it says one thing, you have to play on the equipment. If they say the other, you stay off. So in terms of relationship to objects, can kids quickly switch between the two? And so I want to show these to you because this is every movement skill with regards to spatial awareness. Okay, practice movements with spatial awareness. That's kindergartens. Okay, pretty straightforward. The blue ones are ones that I focus on in other sessions. That's all. Okay. Now, when we, oh, hold on here. Oh, my apologies. That slide was out of order. That's okay. I'll come back to that. I'll show you a tool that I have after that. So in this one here, this is 6 hoops. And again, basically what happens here is that you have teams in partners or in threes, and they have to go and either get bean bags or get rid of bean bags. And what it allows you to do, again, is to talk about some tactics. So what's the best way to maximize this? Should we have someone guard ours? Should we have someone go out? Do we need to really watch other teams to see where the balls are? There's one thing I want to go over here. This is it. So I'm going to just back up to this and then I'll get back to the assessment. This one here is the key tactics. This is another kind of like truck and trailer that I have used for over 20 years. And this is called the defensive box. So initially, especially with young kids, the box would actually have cones, 4 cones set up. The distance between them is up to you to decide. 5 steps, 10 steps. 20 steps if you got older kids. That's a big, big box. But what happens is that you have 3 students and only one student can move at a time. And all they do is run to the open cone, right? So one student can only run direction, and wait, they do not have to go in order, but you can only have one person running at a time. Right? So that's the first level. It could take some time because it seems simple, but it's not. The next thing that happens is that you designate one of the individuals to go into the square. Now it becomes a game of controlled tag. So the person in the middle, the only thing that they can do is try to tag someone in between the cones. Now, the key to this is, where do they stand? The other thing, you can use the deer method with this from our practical pedagogy. You can show them and let them play around with it. And the other thing is that only one person can be running at a time. So there's going to be downtime when they're waiting. Now, a player can run to a cone and wait, and then run to another cone. So it becomes this game of almost like hide and seek, but within a box. The next level of this is when we start to talk about offense and defense. Because now in the same game, what's happening is that this individual in the middle has to anticipate where they're going. So are they standing in a place where they can see both players? And then we make it a little more complicated. So now we're actually going to introduce a ball. We go back to not having a defender, and we have 3 people in the box, and you can either move or you can pass. The key here is that after you pass the ball, you must move to an open cone. So I pass the ball, I move to the open cone. The thing is that even the player who doesn't have the ball, they're allowed to move to an open cone as well. Only one person can be moving at a time. This one here is going to take time to develop, but by grade 4 and 5, especially grade 6, this is a skill that we can be developing. Shows up in every sport we play that is an invasion game. And then the final one is now we're actually going to literally add in a defender with this. So 4 different levels in kindergarten, probably going to use 1 or 2. But as we move forward, when students start to realize that the space is so small, they can see the open cone, it allows us to kind of ramp that up and to scale it up as well. Awesome. This part here is assessing group progress for the next level. When do you know when it's time to move on to a more complicated level? For me, it's when about 80% of the kids are doing it without reminders. When they're actually going through the steps, you actually see them making progress, or you see them talking to their teammates about, hey, let's do this instead. That's when we can add that next level of complexity or just go to a different kind of game as well. So summary sheet, is this the tracking tool? Here we go. This is the document that I've been working with this year. It's one I've shared a few times. I have this PDF. It's also in the Excel spreadsheet that has everything. It's a downloadable version of the summary of every part of the curriculum. It has all of the active living, it has the movement, it has the relationships, and it's all pulled out into 1 page per key. Now, when I'm working in the gym, this movement series, this is our body awareness and tactics. B is our manipulation, and C is your cooperation. It's that one section. Movement skills has 3 embedded kind of themes throughout it. So if you imagine all your student names down the side here, the other thing that I've done, I'm a big fan of efficiency. So for my grade 3s, I have all of the cusps in here. Excuse me. But these are just the skills and procedures. Okay? The PDF, for some reason, is not clear. I trust me that it's actually quite clear on the actual piece. So here for grade 3, I've got 1, 2, 3. That's all I have. This is my tactics and spatial awareness. So if I'm doing an introductory day, I'm going to say, well, maybe I'm going to focus on 2-1, 2A1, and 2A2. Then for that day, I'm going to go up here and I'm going to use my marking system for every kid. Just put it in. Do I see it? Do I not? Are they a 1, 2, 3, or 4? In the practical pedagogy, I have a section on assessment there. I even have a short version of that. But the way I do it, I can do it so I can add or subtract kids without them seeing any numbers, right? So this is how I track kids. And it's been working really well because I have 2, in grade 6, I just have 2 report card indicators in Alberta, in Calgary, I should say. So I have to compress all of this information into 2 report card stems. So the fact that I can check it 3, 4, maybe 6 times a year and kind of continually increase that, that's the piece that's going to give me the peace of mind that I've actually completed all of those cusps in the new curriculum. All right. The next series, as I said, is on manipulatives. It'll be a different session. I'm actually going to be in the gym, not in my classroom here, and probably have 2 different cameras if I can figure out how. There are not going to be a lot of slides, but I will have a resource that will help you identify immature, like in between and mature movement patterns for those main things. All right. Other than that, if you need other support, you want to talk about something, you want to jump on a call and pass through anything that's bothering you about the new curriculum, please take down one of my emails there. The top one is probably the best because it goes to my work email as well. And other than that, I'm going to stop the recording. And if anyone has questions, this is a different kind of session I was trying today. Hopefully you got something out of it, but I can stay on for another 20 minutes and answer all your questions. Other than that, thank you so much, and we'll see you on the other side, and we'll hopefully see you in the next set of series. Thank you so much.